Good morning and welcome to Dr. Karen Kombrink, Mr. Jason Oberholster and Ms. Jacqueline Keiler. My name is Nina Barnard, and with Emile Roux, Ilanke Wilts and Kayla Potgieter, all students from the Architecture Department at the University of Pretoria, we will present the overview of Melusi. We start today by introducing you to Melusi, its context and the approach to methodology we used. Firstly, I would like to explain how we went about our collaboration with multiple parties. We collaborated with Melusi's community leaders, such as Kenny from the COPC, and community volunteers that now act as local community leaders. This included Taban, Olga, Susan, Letty, Ronald, Sazen, Ntabi Singh, Ntombi, Kamogelo, and Tandi. The Urban Citizen Studio consisted of students from the University of Pretoria, together with our two study leaders, Dr. Karen Kombrink and PhD candidate Jason Oberholster. The Reality Studio students is a group of students from the Chalmers University in Sweden that is now here for an exchange program to understand and comprehend the urgent struggles experienced in informal settlements in Pretoria, together with their lecturer, Lena Zackerson. To appropriately start this research project, we have to investigate exactly where Melusi is. Pretoria is situated in Gauteng, South Africa, and is the administrative capital of South Africa. Pretoria has a population of 2.5 million people and is adorned with jacaranda trees lining the streets, beautiful landmarks celebrating our rich history, and cultural attractions such as the Voortrekker Monument and Freedom Park. Pretoria has charming parks such as the terraced gardens at the Union Buildings. The beautiful, graceful, and praised Union Buildings are just a 5-minute drive from one of Pretoria's 240 informal settlements. The residents in these informal settlements do not experience Pretoria as I just alluded to. They are exposed to a very low standard of living. The residents are worried about their futures and rarely discover the community around them. The residents living in informal conditions are vulnerable to a range of risks. These risks can be externally and internally driven.
Melusi is situated to the northwest of Pretoria CBD, north of the mountain range. On this map, you can see the roads in white, railways in orange, and the Apies River in blue. Melusi is currently situated in an Industrial 1 zoning area, surrounded by agriculture and residential zones, whereas the Boysens nursery is in a municipal zone. Industrial 1 zone allows for standard factories and warehouses, with a 70% coverage. The current density of Melusi rather relates to a residential 4 zone.
For our research methodology, we considered the Ukuduba method, which included a research design, a questionnaire design, data collection, data conversion, data analysis and interpretation, as well as moving it to a data warehouse. We also used our own methods of data collection, such as Survey 123, interviews with residents, and site visits. For context documentation, we made use of photos, drawings, diaries, and literature reviews. For data analysis, we exported surveys from Survey 123 to OpenStreetMaps as well as AutoCAD and Adobe programs. It is believed that informal settlements will be systematically replaced by formal structures and systems, but the development trends may prove otherwise. Therefore, we refer to a community action planning scheme. The Community Action Planning Wall Chart is used as a guide and management tool for workshops. The Global Action Plan aims to accelerate the progress on sustainable development goals, such as the no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education and clean water and sanitation SDGs. The Global Action Plan implements the new urban agenda to improve slum transformation, which uses a social, economic, environmental and spatial sustainable approach. We also use the Upgrade of Informal Settlements program, which aims to upgrade wide areas. The objective is to develop high-level response strategies addressing the vulnerabilities. The strategy will aim at lowering the exposure and improve local resilience.
This map shows Melusi in the current state, wetland to the east and the Melusi Dam in the center. To better understand where Melusi 1, 2 and 3 is situated, we look at the following. This being Melusi 1, this Melusi 2, and this Melusi 3. The following map shows beacons of transport in orange, places of work in purple, and places of recreation in green. Ilanka will briefly touch on the history of Melusi.
Understanding the zoning of Melusi 1, 2 and 3 and their resource provision, we will have a brief historic overview starting in 2004, where the only prevalent activity is the sand quarry. This is very important because the roads and routes and the quarry itself will later set stage for the urban framework of Melusi. Next, we have 2008, where the sprawling of Melusi 1 starts, with Theo Slubbert Street as an access and the Boyson's Nursery as the base point. Next, 2013, where Melusi 1 takes its final form and only densifying, and Melusi 2 taking shape, relevant to the wetland area. Next, we look at 2015, where, as I mentioned, Melusi 1 only densified, Melusi 2 grew a bit, and Melusi 3 took shape, adjacent to the dam/quarry. Also relevant to notice here is the growth of the water body itself. Next is 2018, where Melusi 3 is in full urban sprawl, with the mountain range on the southern side as a border and the quarry dam as a factor of expansion. Melusi 2 also expands across from the wetland area, still Theo Slubbert as an access and the Boyson's Nursery as a base point. Important to also mention here is the resource provision according to Melusi 1, 2 and 3. Melusi 2 receives formal water and electricity connections by Tshwane municipality. Melusi 1 then plugs into this with informal connections of water and electricity, and Melusi 3 is seen as the most vulnerable with no connection to water or electricity. Our final map of the historic overview brings us to 2022 with the newest GIS information. As you can see, Melusi 3 takes full urban sprawl, expanding to the east with the mountain still as a border. The water body of the dam/quarry and the wetlands also grew. Theo Slubbert Street is still the main access route to Melusi 1, 2 and 3. But important to mention is the closure of Boyson's Nursery. The closure of Boyson's Nursery took place through the community action of Melusi as they demanded basic access to water, sanitation and electricity. Thus, Boyson's Nursery is non-existent.
Curated by our lecturers, this is the sites that different groups worked on. The following map shows beacons of transport in orange, places of work in purple, and places of recreation in green. Ilanka will briefly touch on the history of Melusi.
So, how did we go about this research project? In our first week, we had our introductions to site as well as introductions to the Chalmers University students with a braai. We had a needs finding workshop with Larry Toops from Chalmers University as well as GIS training. We learned about the community action plan and the wall chart used. We had our first introduction to Plastic View, and on the Friday we had our first introduction to Melusi. In our second week, we had a group formation workshop with our Chalmers students as well as chose our sites. On the Tuesday, we had a formal introduction to Melusi and received our working areas. On the Thursday and Friday, we started with the co-creating wellness questionnaires in Melusi.
The next week, we gathered data on site with our given co-creating wellness questionnaires, where we interviewed part of the community and conducted physical observation questionnaires. We were inspired by this and our community action plan lecture to create new surveys and gather more specific data for individual groups. Through this, we identified new needs of the community. From the site walks, our CAP lecture and harmony reading, we've gathered enough data to prepare for our progress reviews. The co-creating wellness questionnaires we receive consist of questions regarding public space and infrastructure, being roads, socializing and education. Next, individual dwellings, being households and structures. We also had questions about livelihood and food security, health and well-being, being physical health, access to care and mental health, and then also social resilience and leadership, being social networks and everyday life. We also conducted a physical observation questionnaire consisting of dwellings, being electricity, housing types, structures, boundary conditions, and materials. resources being water points, sanitation points, food security, vegetation, waste areas and public amenities. And then we also documented build structures through plans, sections, dimensional drawings and connection details. These questionnaires were conducted through an interviewer who asked the questions, the note taker who gathered all the data, and the documenter, the person who did the sketching and who took the pictures.
After looking at what the questionnaires consisted of, we had a questionnaire conversion, and now we show you how we analyzed and interpreted the data. On the screen you can see 3 examples of questions from the Co-Creating Wellness questionnaire. Data could be converted to percentages or numbers.
In skills and businesses, our main objectives are economic activities, fueling the ambitions and dreams of business owners, uplifting existing businesses, and creating business opportunities within Melusi.
Our group is Bridging Melusi. Our objective is the investigative process of the existing wet sources of Melusi and the ripple effects that these wet sources have on the people, the community, their well-being, and their environment. We then explore the community responses, external implementations, and we ideally want to create a bridge between Melusi and the knowledge of adaptation, development, and educated implementation of water knowledge and infrastructure.
For the Knowledge Exchange Group, our objectives was to support a knowledge spread and empower residents, to create an ease of access to common interests, to improve relationships between people, community and environment, and also to incorporate a daily knowledge exchange.
On our site walks, the Skills and Businesses group had some initial experiences and observations, namely a vibrant main street consisting of the most economic activities, proud business owners wanting to better their financial and business skills, and a community wanting to support each other's ambitions.
For the Knowledge Exchange Group, we had a very personal interaction with the residents of Melusi. Some of our students helped transport water for the residents, as well as walk their dogs.
As displayed in our story map, Melusi faces a lot of problems regarding water accessibility and security, but these problems bring resiliency to Melusi. And within this resiliency, there's a lot of hope and willingness to learn. These challenges also bring opportunities for community engagement and forms part of Melusi's strong integrity and identity.